Mhm.
Hello, bonjour, Camille.
Bonjour, mon ami. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. Given the interesting times we're living in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in quarantine for everyone.
Yeah, so maybe you could start with that because, it's unavoidable. How's things in Brussels?
Well, so I think it's been now over 2 weeks that we're, locked down, and I pretty don't know what's going out there. I'm trying to not watch, the news, so I can't tell the number of cases, but I know it's going up every day. So yeah, I'm going out just for groceries, so every 3 days, something like that, or once a week.
Mm.
But
Uh,
doing pretty good.
cool. Hang on, let me just check if, because last time I didn't get the sound. Let me see if this works.
Yes.
Okay, it works.
Good.
Right. So before the coronavirus has affected the whole world, the reason I wanted to talk to you was about the love center that you've set up there
Mhm.
in Brussels. If you could just tell me what is it?
Yeah.
Mm,
So in 2016, while I was in San Francisco in United States, I had this dream
mm,
about, opening a sexual wellness center where people can come and ask questions related to sex, related to their relationships, having something that it's, a different kind of image, like, that it's friendly places where you can see, where you can talk, where you are like feeling comfortable to go and talk. And so in 2019, I met my co-founder, my associate, and we created together this place. So it's called the Love Health Center, and it's in the heart of Brussels City.
and how is it going now?
Mm. So before the quarantine, we did a crowdfunding campaign,
Mm.
and we succeeded in our crowdfunding campaign. So we were able to start, the renovation, the painting, and everything. But now it's a bit, how do you say? It's a bit off for now because we had to stop. And we stopped all the activities as well. We were supposed to do workshops and conferences, so we stopped them, but now I'm more focusing on doing things online. So I think it's a good transition as well because it's what I aim for, like to do more online. So right now it's on off, meaning off, no practices, no conferences offline. But then when we're preparing, the next workshops that we can do offline and the next conferences. So yeah, it's a different time. And I think it's also a good way for us to transition to something different.
And what kind of workshops are you thinking of putting online? Because I think that's a key question to everyone who's teaching, who's doing workshops. What do you do in this new time? Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, workshops online, honestly, I don't know yet because I'm not comfortable yet. I don't know how, I don't have the tools. I don't know, like, so I'm testing. Right now, what I'm testing online is more coaching one-to-one and also conferences where we're talking about topics, which 2 weeks ago, it was about menstruation and, the pads and tampons and cups that you can use. And tomorrow it's going to be about all the podcasts that talk about sexuality, the French ones, in a way that we can, meet all together in Francophonie to know what's happened in the field of sexuology, because it's quite taboo, it's quite unknown. And so we're trying to, as a Level Center, we're trying to have everything in one platform where we can find all the resources related to sex.
Yeah, and I guess it's not a very well-known field. How would you say to someone who don't know about it, what is sexology?
Mm.
Mm.
Well, sexology, I will say the study of sex, sexuality, the study also of relationship, because it's sexology is very vast. It's your sex life is related to your education, to the context of your life, to your relationship, to who you are right now, to your health as well. So there's many factors that you have to really think about when you're doing your sex therapy, when you have reflection about your sex life. So sexology is like all these kind of fields. We are studying, sociology, psychology, biology, education. So it's very vast. That's why also it for some people it's hard to understand because they are just seeing in one very specific aspect, while it's wide.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because if I think about it, sexuality is a key part of life or furthering life as well. And why not study it, right? If it's a key part of being alive. And I like the fact that when you said that it's really interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel that's the way things should move instead of being so specific, so specialized. I like the approach that it's a wide field. Um, I guess my question is in this field because I'm just comparing it with psychology. Like with psychology, they started with looking at disorders, and then it's only later on that the field of happiness and positive psychology someone had to create it because all the previous psychology was about what's wrong with the mind. Is there something similar with sexology?
Depend. I mean, yes, sexology based, like, actually in France and Belgium at the beginning, if you wanted to be a sex therapist, you had to be either a doctor or like a psychologue. So of course they based the sexology on like this kind of things of disorders because it was to solve issues. Here at the Level Center, we're trying to have a different approach, which is more like sexual wellness. So we are less like problem solved. We are more like we guide you to a better sexual well-being. And like if you're having intimacy questions, if you want to have like a better sex life, or if you're curious and you want to try different things, then we have the tools for that.
What has been your experience in how people are responding to when you had the Kickstarter campaign? What were like the questions they have? Yeah, just interested to know what people on the street, what were the reactions when you were trying to tell them the story of this project you want to create? Yeah.
Well, what is cool about this project, it is very challenging. Because we know that we can reach right now at this moment, we can reach only a small amount of people, the people who are already ready for this kind of things, who are like, we call them like the sexophile, meaning they're already interested in their sex life, they've been through different workshops related to personal development, sex workshops and etc. So they're like, oh wow, we were dreaming about like this kind of center, this is amazing. And the rest, which is the largest, it's like more like, what is these crazy things? Like, who are these crazy people? Like usually, and also we kind of break the image of what is a sex therapist, because with my business partner, we are very open-minded. We are very always smiling, cheerful, and we can, dance on the street. When we did our video for the crowdfunding campaign, we were dancing on the street, and people were like, "Oh, wait, they don't fit in the box of sex therapists. Like they look too fun, too crazy." So we know it's challenging, and also it's our vision. We want the world of sex therapy being like more joyful. That's something that people are shameless about and that they can talk about it. So that's why we're very, for us, it's very important to keep this image. And we know also it's hard. It's going to take some time to, to bring like this largest amount of people to where we are right now. It takes time, but we're gonna be able to do it. Yeah, in a few years.
Yeah, I know this might be a hard question to answer because it's very specific to individuals. But if you can say a few qualities, a few indications that one is having us reach a good level of wellness in terms of sex life, what would it look like, you know?
Yeah, so it really depends on people. But usually they are like pretty confident about themselves. They are feeling good in their body. They are feeling good in the relationships. Um, they usually don't have a lot of issues talking about sex. They're also very curious. And I think curiosity is one of the quality, I think, because, our sex life changed through, through the time, through who we are. So we're changing, we're evolving through what we've been through the relationships and everything. And I think if you keep being curious, then it's very good because you have to adapt to any changes. And the more flexibility you have, the more able you are to adapt, then this is also a good key to have a sexual satisfaction. Or at least you're curious and you're open-minded to find solutions, to find resources for your sexual wellness.
Yeah. And with based on your clients, is there more of a specific group, like age group, or is it more varied?
If I'm based on my audience on Instagram, because I can say because I have graphics and I have audience, the age is like between 25 and 34. So this is a range. So it's also, similar to my age. I'm 29, so I'm in this range. And it's mostly women. I think I have about 64% of women. But what is funny, what I realize, it's mostly men who send me private message and wants to know more how to have a better sex life.
Okay. So you have more women following you publicly, but a lot more men messaging you privately.
Yes, or even when there's like also, I'm very surprised anytime, like, or when there's survey as well, it's mostly men who answer them, as if like for women, they were too shy or too shame to answer.
So it's interesting. And within this age group of 25 to 34,
34.
would that be millennials? I would think so, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are their main concerns? Because sometimes it's for me it's a bit confusing because there's a lot of clickbait articles. This generation, they don't know how to talk. They just on their phones all the time. I mean, it's a bit. I think that it's a bit of cartoonish way of looking at a whole generation. So I'm interested to hear some real stories. Like, what are their concerns in this area of life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like first, what I would like to say is I'm always surprised about like the new generation, so under 25, because it feels like so the generation of 25, 34, they're like quite aware that they should work on their relationship and their sex life, and they don't really know how or where to find the tools. While the 20, the range of under 25, they're even more conscious about that. And they have Instagram, they have, internet, and they kind of trying to find these answers, and I think on Instagram, I mean, in France and Belgium, Francophonie, we can find some very useful Instagram accounts that talk about sex in an open-minded way, in a positive way. And now the more constant that we have, that I have, honestly, the question, so there's always plenty of questions, but underneath, it's mostly, am I normal?
Oh, okay.
Like, if we're talking about the size of the dick, am I normal? Like, I don't feel any sensation. Am I normal? Like, I don't have any libido. Am I normal? What about the others? You know, people are always asking, I don't know, I feel like I'm alone, but you, Camille, you can tell me, like, am I the only one asking this kind of question? And I'm like, no, there's plenty of people who are, you know, in the same situation as you. The only thing is, like, we're not talking about it, so people does not realize that, you know, we are all concerned about the same kind of problem. And the thing is, like, if we can talk openly about it, you know, we can save many people's, you know, doubts and issues. Because also what I realize in when I do coachings, it's really, you know, I said, like, usually I said, like, I'm going to turn a button in your head and it's going to start, you know, turning. And what they realize is like, oh my God, but just, you know, I'm just happy that I was able to share this with someone. I feel lighter. And also I realize that I am normal, and I realize I should not be ashamed about it. And oh my God, people should just, you know, talk with someone about sex, because I feel alive now. I feel like, wow, all my problem, you know, went away just by talking about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that. I would have thought that in this postmodern world, there's really no more idea of what's normal. You know, it's like conforming to this ideal measure. That's, I don't know who said it, but it's really it's in here, right? Each person can make it work in however way they want, as long as there's resonance between partners, whatever. But it's interesting to see that it's still there. This what do you call this? It's like the tyranny of being normal. But what is normal? Who has the answer?
Exactly. And I think also people who are like happy about their sex life are also happy people who think outside of the box, you know, like what does it mean being a man? What does it mean being a woman? You know,
Yeah.
like, you know, can a man can have pleasure with his, you know, anus, like prostate, like, you know, like there's many things I think like, even for like, if I'm talking about like men's sexuality, like I think it's sad because right now I think we are just men are just using, you know, a few percent of their sexual capacity, you know, of the sexual pleasure, because the schema of like, you know, foreplay, I don't really like this term, but foreplay, erection, penetration, ejaculation, it's just a few percentage of what you can have, you know, in your sex life. And most of the people are just, you know, inside this box and can't think outside, and then of course they are limited their potential, their sexual potential.
Yes, I could link it back to what you said, the curiosity, you know. Yeah, if you're just, it's very linear. This box you're mentioning, it's good. And yeah, and also what came to me as you're talking is I've read somewhere, or two things actually. One is I've heard this term of anhedonia. It's like some people can't get pleasure or they have no desire. I think it's quite linked to nihilism, I think. And number two is I've been seeing a lot more people saying they're asexual. You know what I mean? Maybe you could speak to this. I'm quite interested also because from evolution psychology point of view. I would think that sexual drive is built in because we're meant to. It's in the biology. So I'll be interested to see how the people who say they're asexual, how they were able to get out of that biological drive. Yeah.
Yeah, so first I will say that I have less experience about, like, you know, asexual people. I will question, you know, I will question the history, the sexual history of this person, like the relationship as well, like, you know, what this person has been through. Meaning, like, I think it's totally perfect, like normal if you're happy about not having sex or a sexual life. Like, as long as, you know, people are happy about it, who am I to change that, you know? Like, good for them. and for people who say that they are asexual and they are like, suffering from that. Yes, as I said, I will question, sexual history, the past, and maybe this is, linked to who they are right now, the body image, like how they feel about themselves, or how they feel with, in relationship with someone. So I think there's some, if they suffer about it, there's, much more underneath.
Yeah, just go deeper. Yeah, that makes sense. A more personal question. What are you personally? What joy do you get out of doing this kind of work?
What is my joy? What is my pleasure of doing it?
Yeah. This area. It's not like you ask a kid, "Oh, when I grow up, I want to be a sexologist." Not many kids, not many people would say that. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Or even me, when I think I got the idea of being a sex therapist when I was teenager. I was reading a lot of books about relationship therapies, like how they work. The famous sex therapist Willie Passini, and I was like, oh my god, that looks so good. Like I'm pretty sure I will enjoy doing it. Helping people, helping couples, helping people being happy. Happier, and I think what I really enjoy, and I can see it recently because since the quarantine, I'm offering every day to 2 people 30 minutes of free coaching. And so I can also reach people who will usually not have the money or not have the confidence to do it. And right now they're like, oh, there's this, okay, I'm gonna, take this and trying to see, if we can solve my issue. And the result of all this coaching, it's every time at the end of the 30 minutes, people have a big smile in their face. And this is my joy. It's like they have like a big smile and it's like, oh my God, like, I'm so glad I talked to you. Like, it was only 30 minutes, but it changed, the way I'm thinking about my sex life, the way I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And this is just give me goosebumps. And I'm like, okay, I know why I'm doing that. Because it's it's such a pleasure and it makes me so happy and it makes people so happy. So, what a better job than that?
Yeah, and I could feel it in your body, even though we're so far away, but I could feel the
goosebumps. I have goosebumps
I
just
could feel
saying
it.
it.
It's a body sensation. I could feel the joy you have in.
Yeah, it's a joy, like seeing the joy of the people and being like, why we're not talking about this? And I'm like, yes, I know, and that's why I'm opening a sexual wellness center, because I know this is like this is something that we need, the world needs, and we need more of that. It's not only one sexual center. We should open, worldwide,
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah. What are some practices that people could do in quarantine to enhance their sexual well-being? Suggestions. Yeah.
Suggestion, yeah.
Whether one is
It's
alone
funny.
or with a partner.
Yeah, it's funny because since quarantine, I've been called by many, radio, medias to write articles or to talk about what to do during quarantine if we are solo or if we are with a partner. So it's funny because it shows that now that we have time, that people have time, they think about their relationships, they think about themselves, which is good. And I think it was needed. And I think it's good to keep in mind that it should be always the case. When the quarantine will be over, we should still be prioritize our, well-being, our sexual life, our relationship as well. And so what kind of advice I can give like during quarantine? I think it's like a period of time. We don't know yet how long it's gonna last, but let's say if it's a month, 2 months, like to be completely curious, to take this container as a quarantine for 1 month, 2 months, to try things that to explore, to think outside of the box. So it's like, okay, so to reflect on how your sex life is right now and being like, okay, what kind of sex life I would like to experience now? What I would like to, what there are things that I've never thought about that I could try during the quarantine. So for some people, it could be, okay, I'm going to masturbate because I've never done that. Now I have time. I'm going to do it. For some people, they already masturbate and they're like, okay, but I masturbate only in this kind of position or only in this way. So I'm going to change. Maybe if I masturbate with my right hand, I'm going to do it with my left hand. Just simple things. Or if I don't use lube when I masturbate, then I'm going to use lubes. Or if I use, porn to masturbate, maybe I can watch a different kind of porn, like ethical porn, for example. Or like I can listen to erotic podcasts. Like, trying to be curious about that. And if you are with your partner, like it's really, really to take time to sit down and reflect on, okay, how do we want to live this quarantine together? What are the things that are important for me? What are the things that are important for you? What are the things that are important for a relationship to work through this quarantine? What are the things we want to try differently? It's really a time to reflect on the relationship, on the sex life. Just starting with the basics, I think.
Yeah, that's good. What is ethical porn? You just mentioned it.
Yeah, so it's called ethical porn. So usually the porn that people watch, it's called mainstream porn, which is on what you can find on Pornhub or like all these kind of platforms. And usually it's always kind of the same script, which is, male pleasure, which is the same kind of bodies. There is no really scenarios, or not a constructive scenarios. You only see, part of the body. You only see, the genitals. So like as if as a human, we're only the genitals. You also, if you look at the behind the scene of the mainstream porn, it's scary. At least it's scary for me, because like usually you have minors, you have people, under 18 doing this. You have people who are not well paid. There's no consent. They have to do, practices that they are not saying yes for that. And it's mostly, yes, mostly about like, penetration and ejaculation, humiliation, domination for some part of the porn. And you don't really see the pleasure. Like, you don't see female pleasure, you don't see oral sex. If you see oral sex, most of the time it will be, blowjob, but cunnilingus, you don't really see that in mainstream porn. And so ethical porn, trying to think outside of this box of mainstream porn, proposing something different, with a constructive scenario, with something artistic, with like you can see, all the body and different shapes as well. You can see, people with hair, like, women with hair, like different kind of vulvas, which is very important for people to understand there's a whole diversity. There's not only one vagina, one vulva that looks like this. I mean, when I'm talking about, it's more vulva. There's not only one. There's not only one big penis that should look like that. There's a diversity of people. And so ethical porn, like really, really pay attention to that. And also what I really like, it's a behind the scene. It's like they're making, so it's usually movies that you pay for, and you pay for because, actors and actresses, they have well paid for that. They also consent for the practices. You also see that they are like protecting themselves. They are using condoms, things that you don't really see. You see female pleasure, you see men's pleasure, you see like a wild diversity. So it's completely changed your perspective. You see like sexuality very wide with ethical porn.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's like a Whole Foods versus fast food or something. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You're right. Like usually we call mainstream porn as a junk food, and ethical porn, it's whole organic food, which is healthier for a relationship. It's healthier for the body image, because and it's healthier for our mind. We're not just thinking inside the box; we're thinking outside.
How about different relationships? Like we have monogamy, which is very still, I would think, majority of kind of relationships. But now people seem to be experimenting with other kinds, and especially with books like Sex at Dawn. And it's encouraging people to discuss this. What's your experience of this kind of discussion?
Well, for me, like for a long time, I was thinking the same. I was thinking inside the box. I was thinking monogamy, like if I'm in a relationship, it's monogamy. And then suddenly I discovered that they were like, plenty kind of different kind of relationship. You have to design your own. And so it's good. It's good to think outside the box, to reflect on what do you want. Is it monogamy for me? Is it open relationship for me? Like polyamory, is it for me? Like really to think. I think it's very good that people can think different kind of relationships. And inside the couple, I think it's good at the beginning to really take time to think of what kind of relationship they want, how they want to design the relationship. And of course it's going to change through the years, the decades, and it's okay. And that's why it's very important at the beginning to really put this on the table. And I'm still wondering, it's still a question that I have in mind, like for open relationship or polyamory, does it really work long term? I don't have the answer for that. Right now we'll be more like maybe more pessimist about it. But who knows? I think what is most important in any kind of relationship is to be very communicative about it. To communicate, to be vulnerable, and to talk about feelings.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch because I've seen with people I know, they went through a cycle of open relating, and a lot of them are now coming back to monogamy, and it might change again tomorrow. It's like this, but it's good. People are experimenting, I suppose. It's better than not testing it out. Yeah.
Yeah, they're experimenting, and actually, I'm trying. Right now, I started also my point of view. I think it's very good that they're experimenting, even the young people that they're experimenting, to not be in relationship at 19 or 20, 22, but to try different kind of relationships to better understand who you are, what you want, and, to play with the relationships, with a game of relationship, meanings like having skills about relationship.
Yeah, and also interesting with this is so you have the physical sexual act, and then there's the relationship, but there's also this whole big world of eroticism. Sometimes the erotic is not really about getting it, but it's about that almost getting it. That's my experience. There's something nice about the play. Is this gonna happen or not? There's something. Oh, we don't know, and it's because we don't know. I feel the electricity.
I can feel it. Yeah, that's why some people were like, I love to seduce, I love to flirt, because this is the excitement of not knowing, not being sure. It's not what I want, but just the idea get me excited. And I think that's why eros and fantasies, imagination is very good to really cultivate it. Inside also, if you're in a relationship, inside the relationship, it's very good to have fantasies and to work on your imaginaries, to explore this.
Yeah, and also playing with gender. I did a bit of that with makeup. It's quite interesting. It's like I'm learning a lot from. Now when I did it, or someone did it to me who was a makeup artist, I felt like I kind of get why women do this. It's not I could see that it's possible that they're doing it for them. It's not to please other people, but there's actually an art and a pleasure in the actual, it's a costume. It's like, it's like art. It's like a form of art, I think. And it took a long time, and
yeah, and I saw like some of the pictures, and I really love it. I really love seeing people, any kind of gender, wearing makeup, or like the same, like we're questioning as well. So if I come back from yes, I think it's an art as well, and it's something that you feel good, and you feel good also because you're taking care of yourself, meaning not to please someone else, but meaning you're taking time, when you put your mascara or you put this, you're very also trying to be conscious about what you're doing. And it's kind of a mindful practice. So that's why you're feeling good also when you do it. And also for some people, you have the reflection of what other people see when you have a makeup. But I think it shouldn't be for please other people. And to come back to that, it's also true for men. I see many people like as a gender, they are like, as men, they are kind of sad that they don't have many options to dress.
Yeah.
They would like to wear, they would like to wear skirts, to wear dresses, and they are very limited if you think about it.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean if I cross that, it doesn't mean it affects my preference. You know what I mean? It's like
It just
it's
closes.
different. Yeah. And yeah, I've even met a trans woman whose preference are women. It's like, yeah, all these things. Like when I guess we go back again to this attitude of being open.
I
If
think
I'm
it's
not
good
open, I
to.
wouldn't see that. Oh, actually, it's a
Mhm.
possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like we are back from like, thinking inside the box and outside the box. And I think, for me, I would say the positive approach that we can have, regarding gender, regarding sex orientation, regarding sex life, it's to be free, to be, to not see it as binary, but very as a spectrum. And you can be here, you can be here, you can be here, you can, move through the day, through
Yeah.
the years. And it should be okay. It should be like, very positive. It should be wow, like, you experiment, you going through different things, you're exploring. It should be something like a positive, a positive quality.
Yeah. And I guess that's the challenge that then is like I'm having this continuous discussion with some friends on, we have these terms, these are masculine qualities, these are feminine, but in this time in the 21st century, they kind of lose their meaning. Like this kind of characteristic, like being assertive, can both be masculine and feminine. Either way. Yeah, so maybe there'll come a time that I don't know, but at the same time, the ancient techniques of tantra and all that are very much based on masculine, feminine dichotomy. So I'm still grappling on how to not lose the value of those ancient practices, but then make them more
Mm.
contemporary. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think also like in Tantra or all this kind of practice, it's like when they talk about feminine and masculine, they're not talking about, masculine men and feminine women, but more like the energies that we both, regardless of gender, we both have them and we need to cultivate them because it's really two good essence as well.
Mm. Yeah, but even then, yeah. Anyway, maybe
Even then,
it's
it's still binary.
yeah, but I mean, I would guess it's an open question, I suppose. Yeah, it may be we need everyone to think about it or experiment with it.
Yes, experiment and being, open-minded and fluid about it. But for sure, like it's hard, huh, when we've been educated, when the society still thinks, binary. Sometimes it's hard. We are thinking, we're like, oh my God, I'm back into this schema, and so it's good to be conscious about what's happening, in the society and how relationship works, how the dating world works, and how we work as human beings, yeah, in relationship with other human beings.
Hmm. Last few questions. One thing I have to ask this: how is the Francophonie world different from the rest of the world? Because the stereotypes of the French. You even have even the terms like French kiss. Why is it called the French kiss?
Mm. Well, because maybe yes, in France or like Belgium, yeah, we are kissing, like like how do you say, public display? It's what
Of
do you
affection.
say?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
affection. Yeah, affection. Like it's something that most of the French people feel comfortable about it doing in public. While when I was in America, I couldn't see this at all. And but regarding the sex life, I think it's different. I think we are, there's always this question that now that I'm live in Belgium, always this question. Belgium asks, oh, but does the French people are more open-minded in sex? And the French people are like, oh, but does the Belgian people are more open-minded about sex? And I'm like, Well, I don't really know. I think it's pretty balanced, and I think in America it will be different regarding, you know, the states. Because when I was living in San Francisco, for sure San Francisco was here. You know,
Yeah.
France and Belgium was here. But if you're in different states of America, probably it's different. Um, I think it's going to take time. I think people are curious. They have a lot of questions for sure. They have a lot of questions. Now the next step will be like, okay, they have a lot of questions. The next step will be them to be comfortable to ask them. And then the next step will be them, okay, being like, you know, public about it. Being like, oh, I have this question about sex. Can we do, you know, online session? Can we talk in a group? Like, you know, and being, because it's the same as before, like for yoga or for therapy, it was very not well seen at the beginning, you know, it was something weird, like what taboo, what we are talking about this. Like, I'm not a crazy person, what should I see a therapist? While now it's kind of a new trend, you know, you're saying, oh, I have a therapist because, you know, I'm taking care of my well-being. I want to do, you know, personal development. I have a coach. It's great. It's amazing. And I'm pretty sure in a few years, I hope less than a decade, it's going to be completely normal to be like, oh yeah, I have a sex therapist because I'm taking care of my sexual wellness. So I'm someone cool, you know, I'm someone who's taking care of myself. And I'm pretty sure it's going to come. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's just a matter of years.
That would be something to look forward to. Last question. Would you like to talk about your thesis, your research you did to complete your degree?
Yeah, so my master's degree was about orgasmic meditation. So orgasmic meditation, it's a mindfulness practice that you practice with another person. So you are two. And for 15 minutes, it's going to be clitoral stimulation. And so this practice, it's a mindfulness practice with a container, and that you follow, you know, the steps, the philosophy and everything. And you've been trained by a certified coach. And so I did this practice. I've been certified as a coach. And my question was like, yeah, so what is the impact of, you know, orgasmic meditation in your relationship? And so what I did for my master's thesis, I studied this with 10 couples. So I trained, you know, couples in Canada. I was in Canada at the time, so in Canada and in Belgium. And before training them as orgasmic meditation, I give them through tests, a lot of tests about mindfulness, tests about sexual satisfaction, about sexual function. And then I train them and I ask them to practice orgasmic meditation for 6 weeks. Because usually the mindfulness, the studies about mindfulness practice, it's last 6 weeks. So that's why I ask them to practice 6 weeks. And at the end of the 6 weeks, I give them the same tests: mindfulness, sexual satisfaction, relationship satisfaction, and everything. And I compare the two at the before the practice and after the practice. So 10 couples, it's not much to really make a general thing. But it's a tendency, and what I could notice, it's like usually like the sexual satisfaction went up as the same as the relationship satisfaction. And this you might can explain because people were doing, you know, taking time for their relationship, because the orgasmic meditation is for 15 minutes, like more or less like 20 if you do, you know, you prepare the material and then you do all the things. And nowadays in our societies, we are going very fast, and people having the excuse of, I don't have time for my relationship, I'm so busy. It's just a matter of priority, I will say. And in this thesis, at least, you know, people had to practice and to take time for the relationship, which leads to a better communication, which leads like a better intimacy and connection, because they were doing this practice together and they were talking about it afterwards. So what I like about orgasmic meditation, it really works on different aspects, which is, you know, desire. Like, would you like to do this practice with me? Like about consent. Yes, I would love. No, thank you. Like about surrender. You're really going through the steps and then you can really surrender, which is also good for your well-being and sexual life. And it's about connection because you're doing it with someone else. and you're doing it, as like the same as when you play like a physical activity with someone, with a friend, and you feel that there's some of a connection. And it's also about communication. Because, when you desire something, it's good to desire, and then, it's very good also to communicate your desire. And if you communicate well, then you can have a consent. And if you have the consent, then you can surrender into the experience and feel connected.
Thank you. I feel validated now because I also practice this, and I can just base it on my own. But it's good to see that you've applied some rigor into the study and the method of scientific method, and and it confirms my own experience. Very interesting.
Yes, I'm glad, and yes, it's a practice was with, it's the way we met each other. So it's also we have good basics, in a relationship, because we've been trained to this kind of practice.
And it's not just the act itself. It permeates my whole life, really. So it's quite interesting. It stayed with me. So I'm glad.
And some things that you can apply also in your relationship, like meaning when you have this kind of content and it works well on you, and you can ask for what you want, then you can apply it in different things, which is at work, with your kids, with your partner, being like, okay, I really want to hug you. Can we hug for 10 minutes on the couch? Yes. You can apply it different at work, maybe not at work, but at work could be like, okay, I really want to talk about these topics. Can we sit down and talk about it for 15 minutes?
Including these things I do with people, talking to people. I ask, do you want to go online and record the video? They say,
exactly.
Yeah, do it. They say, no, fine, thank you. No further questions.
And for me it took a while, because I think you asked me maybe a year ago, and I was like, I had this desire, and I was also very, very scared, I guess. And few months I was like less scared. I really want, and I was less scared. And now I was like, okay, I have the full desire. It's a full yes. So let's do it.
I guess that's also a key lesson. Like I've experienced that also in other things in life. Like I asked this from someone and I didn't hear from them for a long time. And then I met them again. It's like, whoa. And then suddenly it's on, but there was I guess in my experience, that's when a lot of men and women who are production oriented, step one, step two, and this should happen. If this doesn't happen, then I'm not gonna go there. But different people have different timings,
Exactly, it's what I wanted to say. It's a matter of time. Like if we would have done it a year ago, it wouldn't have been the same conversation. And right now it's a pretty mature. I have experiences. The Level Center has been on for a year. There's some materials to give you that can enrich also, what the people are going to listen. So that's just about time.
And maturation. And then we can talk when all this quarantine is over. It's going to be different again. Like no is the same. No conversation is the same. No one steps in the same river twice.
Exactly.
They're all related. It's quite interesting. I've had my fill of the questions, and thank you for your beautiful answers. Before we end this call, maybe there's some things you want to say that I didn't ask you about.
Well, if people are more curious, if they want to visit us in Brussels, if they're coming to Belgium, after the quarantine, I would be happy to show them around, to give them a tour at the Level Center. So they can reach me out on my Instagram account, which is Camille Parle Sex. Maybe you can type it after, or the Love Health Center Facebook page.
Awesome.
And I will be happy to answer any questions afterwards.
And also listen to your podcast if you understand French.
Yes, you can listen to the podcast, but it's in French right now.
A lot of people actually know French from school and everywhere.
So it could be a good practice.
Thank you, Camille.
Thank you.
It was so nice speaking.
Yes, very nice. I'm always happy to see you and talk to you. So thank you also
Yeah,
for your great work and what you're doing.
thank you. And yeah, the desire for me to visit you in Brussels is there. So
Mhm. Again, because you've been once already.
yeah, I was
So,
taking photos of these cards, and one of the cards was Brussels,
mhm.
the transportation cards. It reminded me. Ah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So come and you come visit the Label Center.
yes, will do. All right. Enjoy the
Bye
rest of your
bye.
day. Bye.
Merci. Bonne journée.
À bientôt.
À bientôt.